Hey everyone, it is currently December 24th. It's the evening. I'm just settling in, had a really nice family dinner. And yeah, it's gonna be Christmas tomorrow. So first and foremost, happy holidays, no matter what you celebrate. This time of year always seems magical to me. But yeah, I just hope everyone's, having some great time off. And yeah, I hope everyone's gonna be somewhere they want to be tomorrow and through the New Year's. So it's funny, one of my last videos, I was talking about Christmas 1982 and the things that I got. And it's funny because tomorrow morning, that will be 40 years ago. And I wanted to share, this is my Christmas story. So in 1982, we were Christmasing with my grandparents. And as you might recall from my last video, that was the year that I got the snow speeder, the ATST, the Bespin Guards, the Hoth Luke, this 3PO with removable limbs, R2 with sensor scope. I got the AT-AT Commander, the AT-AT Driver. So lots of really good Empire Strikes Back figures. But where this story is just always memorable to both my mother and myself is that once Christmas was over that morning, my mom kind of was searching around my grandparents' house for something, and she came to me too and was kind of saying to me, is this all your gifts? There's a gift I don't see. And of course I had all my Star Wars toys together, and I said, yeah, this is my stuff. And she said, there's something missing. So of course that got me that got my ears perked up. And she said, yeah, there's something missing here. So she went and looked under my grandparents' bed because she had hidden all the gifts there. Couldn't find it. And because we were in a different city, she wasn't sure if she had maybe left it at our home in her bedroom hidden. So it turns out that when we got back home after Christmas, my mom searched and she didn't have it. So she was quite upset about it. And it turns out it was the Kenner Hoth Wampa. And I was just, when I found this out, I was ecstatic. So at the time in 1982, there was this department store that wasn't really a department store, but it was more of like almost like a catalog order place that you could go into and order right in the store, which was called Consumers Distributing in Canada. So what you would do is you would go in, you would look through the catalog, they all had their identifier numbers, and then you would fill out these sheets with these small pencils, then hand in the sheet to the clerk, and the clerk would go back in the warehouse and get all the items that you ordered. So it turns out my mom had gone to Consumers Distributing during a lunch hour at work and bought a ton of toys for my sister and I. So myself, Star Wars toys, and my sister at the time was Barbie and strawberry shortcake stuff. So my mom said, she realized that she had so many bags. She had 2 big bags full of stuff that she had bought, and she didn't look in the bag to make sure everything was there. So when we got back to, my hometown, Calgary, we went to Consumers, and my mom was just so dead set on getting one because she's like, you know what, it wasn't in the bag. So it must have not been packed. So she went, brought the bill. And of course, back then they just said, no, sorry, you would have had to have noticed at the time. So she was so awesome because what she said was, well, she tried to replace it and they didn't have any more. The Wampa was sold out. So I actually never got a Hoth Wampa as a kid. So it's funny because it always vexed my mom, and she always remembered it. And it was that Christmas that she was just really bothered by it. But I never actually owned the Hoth Wampa as a kid. So fast forward to when I'm in high school, and I'm at my local comic store, and my mom was there, and the comic store owner had gotten a huge load of old Kenner Star Wars toys, and of course this Hoth Wampa was one of them, and it looked a lot better even back then, so it hasn't aged well. And right away my mom's like, bought it for me. It was used, but this was probably about early 90s, so I ended up getting the Wampa when I was in high school. I thought that was just so funny of my mom, because she was like, that's what I bought for you. She goes, I'm gonna pick it up for you now. And I was so thrilled. I was like, yeah, I'll take it. So I've had this guy since about 1990, I don't know, 2 or 3. I was in high school at the time, and he hasn't even aged well. He looked a lot better back then. So it's funny how they just continue to yellow. But still, I love this figure. It's so cool. Like they really got him good, and I love the how his arms whip back into place, almost to imitate how he thrashes Luke off his tauntaun, which I love. So I never got to play with him as a kid because I didn't have him, but I got him in high school. And then what happened is years later, when I started getting into collecting myself, I actually was able to buy an original in box. At the time I bought this, I thought the box was vintage, very, very immaculate. And now I look at it and I'm like, yeah, it's pretty banged up. I don't know if that's from me from the storage, because I've had this thing for a long time, but I've never opened it. So now what's really funny is that Gentle Giant got into the vintage collection game as well. And they started producing, like I said, those 12-inch figures, which I have a ton of them. And I think this was about 10 years ago, they announced the Hoth Wampa coming out. And I remember I was like, oh my gosh, this thing is wild looking. So it's funny because Christmas came around and my mom was like, hey, what do you want this year? Like, I'm looking for ideas. And I said, hey, you know, that Hoth Wampa, I said, they're releasing a new one, like a new version of it. And I said, it's like 12 inches. It's large size action figure. And she's like, okay. And she's like, where do you pick something like that up? So I was just like, oh, it's, I would just told her where it was. It hadn't even come out yet. And then sure enough, I wake up Christmas morning, and I open up this big bad boy. So this is the Gentle Giant Hoth Wampa that came out, I think 10 years ago. And it's the exact replica of the original. The box is even, I think it's the same artwork. They've changed the Kenner logo to Gentle Giant there. I just put this Wampa here. That's one of the newer ones that came out. And yeah, I just, you know what, this was such a great idea that they did this, and this thing is monstrous. I haven't opened this yet, so I've only seen it on reviews on YouTube. But yeah, it was just such a wonderful story, and it's funny because it's something that my mom and I always laugh about, because she was really upset about it in 1982, which is 40 years ago tomorrow that this happened. And yeah, so the Wampa story is always something that we laugh about, because I remember she didn't even know what its name was. She's like, dude, there's a monster. You should have had a monster in your, you know, in your Christmas haul, the snow monster. And I'm like, no, I already had the Tauntaun at the time. I'd gotten the Tauntaun the year before. So it's just kind of a fun thing. And yeah, I was thinking about 2022, it's Christmas tomorrow and 40 years ago. And I meant to bring the story up in my last video, but I thought I would mention it now as my kind of my very own little Christmas story tied to Star Wars and Kenner and things that happen. So yeah, I'm very excited to, I always get excited for Christmas, and I think this is why, because of just the good old days and reminiscing and all the good times that were had, and all these items that I've accumulated over the years that still, I just love taking out every so often and looking at them. But yeah, I'm sitting here next to my tree. My dogs are sleeping. It's bedtime soon. And yeah, I wish everybody out there, no matter where you are in the world, I hope you have a, you know, a safe and happy time off, whatever holiday you celebrate or don't. I hope everyone's keeping well and safe, and I'll see you in the next video.